This is another week of Double Cross Anime, and this is week number 86. We are here for episode 5 of Ezuken, episode 6 of ID Invaded and Maya Record, and episode 17 of Chihafuru, the third season. And we're gonna get to the volume 2 of Punpun as well. So I'm Mario, and with me here is
Whooper.
Whooper.
We got the names in the correct order.
Yeah.
We got the chapters all read and the episodes all watched.
Yep.
Thanks to some last minute preparation. And we're ready to start.
Yep. I just realized like 10 minutes before the postcard that I haven't watched the latest episode of My Yet Record, but I fixed it. So
nice.
I think let's just go with my Yet Record.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I'm sure you have some keen insight into it since it's so fresh in your mind.
Some really fresh memory of it.
Yeah.
All right, we got another news characters.
Yes, another one. Yeah.
And another just mysteries.
Yeah, I suppose. You know, but it's in the same vein as the other ones. Like, this series is less about witches, I feel, and more they're always talking about rumors.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so I think in the mobile game that was probably the idea, was that they were like fighting rumors instead of witches. And in this one, the rumor revolves around the lucky owl water.
Yep, and those rumors are not from the witch. They are from like different kind of entity.
Yeah.
We're not
sure. I suppose so.
Yeah, we're not sure who are they yet, I think.
I mean, the series does continue to use the term witch.
Yep. But
I can't remember. Do the rumors produce grief seeds?
They don't produce grief seed, but like these magical girls, they are. I remember the magical girls. So I remember like last week with our main character Iroha. Like her, it's not grief seed, isn't it? Like her, I was wrong. Sorry.
There was a grief seed in the previous episode, and Yachio uses it to heal Iroha.
All right.
To like purify her soul gem the night before, and then when she wakes up at the beginning of this episode, she's at Yachio's place in Kamihama City. But I can't remember. I already forget how they got a hold of that grief seed.
Yeah, it's just some random grief seed.
Well, I mean, maybe it did come from whatever witch or rumor or whatever they defeated in the last episode. I don't remember.
That's the thing, because the one from last week, I don't think they are the witch.
Well, the main fight that I remember from last week was Iroha herself turning into a witch or a rumor or some sort of dark magical girl, doppelganger, whatever,
and kill the other one and kill the enemy.
Well, yeah, and I think the villain was probably a witch in that case, or maybe it was a rumor. I don't know.
Yeah, well, properly.
I mean, the Madoka was really clear about all this stuff because it had to establish its world and its logic from nothing. Magia Record is a spin-off, and not only that, it's an adaptation of a spin-off because it's coming from the game. And I thought that was one thing that was pretty obvious in this episode. Like, the lucky owl water seems kind of like an item that you could get in a game. You know, it increases your luck. And then there's a countdown afterwards. It seems like they're very literally adapting the properties of an item from the mobile game, and I don't like that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I don't like it when you can see or feel the roots of an anime as belonging to something else.
Yep, I can see your point. I just been wondering that for every episode now we have new characters and like new sort of rumors. So I just feel like it's not really coherent as a whole.
Yeah, the number of characters is a problem. I think we talked about that last time.
Yep.
Like
I
the
don't like
opening
this
scene
new
in
edition needed.
Felicia
Yeah.
or Felicia,
Felicia.
whatever they call her. Yeah.
Yep.
She's all right, but she's kind of joining late in the game.
Yep. Well, that was true that you just mentioned, like the opening scenes. We see like the whole, like new characters that we didn't know before. I was a bit lost, like there was like in the middle of the fight of the battle that we like have no idea where that come from. With like all the characters that are new to us as well.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw that,
But
I was like, here we go again.
yeah. Well,
I mean, they have some relationship to Yachio, right? Because isn't there a scene where a bunch of the other girls talk to Yachio, like at the midpoint of the episode, maybe? Or maybe it's the gray-haired girl who runs
the gray-haired girl.
like the upgrade shop.
Yep.
I mean, they're her customers, and they come in, and we overhear them talking to one another, and I kind of remember them talking to Yachio for a bit, although that could be a fabrication.
So
but in any case, they belong to like the Witches Guild of Kamihama City, so to speak. And everyone is aware of like Felicia's reputation as kind of a reckless fighter. Yachio knows her right away on sight.
Yep, and I still don't know what the deal with this lucky hour water. We don't know what the bad effect is it gonna have for these girls.
The what?
So the lucky hour water, like the bad omen that it's gonna cause to these girls.
Oh yeah. I mean, we know what positive effects it has. It increases their luck. Like they go to the casino and win a bunch of money and stuff.
Yep. And we see the number counting down as well. Like I didn't catch it at first, but when they explained that like the lucky thing gonna be counting down, I was alright. Yeah, that was good.
I saw it only once or twice before the explanation. It started at 17 and then went down to 16 on like a slot machine at the casino.
Yep.
I think that was the first time that it counted down. Although I could have missed an earlier one.
Yep, and then we got like 15 down to 14, I think.
13 is where it is now.
13, all right. So we got like a whole 13 more, lucky things to happen before.
Yeah, before
we know
the apocalypse.
What bad effect? Yep, that's right.
I mean, yeah, it just indicates that this plot is likely to continue, which was made obvious by the last scene of the episode, I think, with the red and black, color palette, I suppose. It's like it's monochromatic. It's just red.
Yep.
And the wings of Magius.
Yeah.
Like this is in the same way that I thought to myself, oh boy, here we go again. When I saw like 5 characters who I didn't know in the first scene.
Yeah.
Instead of the show just like focusing on its core cast, I kind of thought something similar when these the wings of Magius showed up, like these cultish figures wearing like the robes and talking about how Magius has a plan to destroy all witches, and I don't know, man. Like where was any of this foreshadowed or mentioned before or anything like that?
Yeah. Do you find like these girls when they talk in turns very distracting? I found that very distracting.
I just found it reminiscent of like, isn't that a trope?
It is.
Like in horror films, sometimes there'll be like 2 girls who go back and forth.
Yep.
Share the same dialogue, but take turns reciting it.
Yep.
Yeah, it just reminded me of that. It didn't really distract me too much, especially since all of her voices are identical or nearly identical.
Right. But they offer Felicia the opportunity to clear on the witch, I think. And she seemed tempted by the offer.
She seems more than tempted, man. There's a shot of her looking like absolutely bloodthirsty, like Killua from Hunter x Hunter, with like some kind of weird aura surrounding her.
Yeah, that's right.
That reminded me so strongly of Hunter x Hunter. I'm sure that there was some inspiration being taken there.
Mm-hmm.
If not directly from that show, then from whatever style that is, like whatever artist designed it. Let's say maybe that's like a signature of their work, and they took some of it from that person's brain, whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, she really wants to kill all the witches, and I mean her parents died because of a witch, so that explains her desire for revenge.
Yep.
But we hardly know her as a character, so
yeah, that's true. And we haven't even mentioned like Kyoko come back, and I don't think that Kyoko like Mami before have any like significant effect to the story.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. Like, these just feel like cameos to me, like Easter eggs. I wouldn't be surprised if Mami never shows up again. And Kyoko, I don't know. I feel like since this plot is still ongoing, Kyoko might appear one more time, perhaps to save the girls from whatever trouble they get themselves into. Because Mami did something similar. Like the girls were fighting against a really powerful witch, and Mami just shows up and blows it up in one hit. Something similar might happen here. I don't know.
All right. What you reckon gonna be happen in like the main story wise?
What do you mean?
How the plot gonna evolve?
I don't know. I kind of feel like it'll continue to just be like this.
Just like hopping around from one rumor to another.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It is an adaptation of a mobile game, and some games like that are sometimes released in chapters, like new downloadable content. Will be like a new chapter, a new mini story that you can play through.
Yeah, you unlock the new characters.
Right. Well, no, that's like gacha games specifically. I don't know if Magia Record functioned that way or not. I mean, it probably did. But just the like new chapters being added to the story, I think, is kind of what this feels like. Like this one is about Felicia and the Wings of Magius, and like this little mini plot where there's the possibility to eliminate all witches. A character's clearly being tempted to the dark side by that promise.
So I'm a bit like lost with the story, but I think the visual is still impressed. Like I really like the background design of the mall, the hall, the place where they do the lucky water.
Right. There were a couple of shots that I really liked from that scene. Specifically the ones that would capture like a very long hallway.
Mm-hmm.
Like you would get to see really, it would kind of feel like an expansive shot, and you would get to see all the clutter against the walls of the whatever facility. I saw some sign on it that said like anti-waste facility or something like that. It did feel like a mall. But just whenever you got a sense of like how big the place really was and how long its hallways stretched out, giving it that kind of otherworldly, kind of labyrinthine, dreamlike quality. Those are really cool.
That's true.
Although I mean I do have one criticism of the show's art, and that's that the transitions between the real world and the labyrinths, specifically where they fight witches or rumors, those transitions are not very good. Like, for example, in this one... Yeah. In this one, there's the Lucky Water scene, and Felicia is there with Iroha. And they both drink some, and the mood is like vaguely happy, kind of drug-like. And then, the the witch kind of rears its head, and Felicia is made aware of its presence, and then there's a transformation sequence where she gets ready for battle, and then immediately afterwards, without even one scene to bridge the gap, you see Iroha running through like a portal. You don't even see her leaving the Lucky Water area to go into a portal. You just see her exiting a portal into the labyrinth.
Yep.
And it felt like really jarring. I got whiplash trying to catch up for a second. What just happened? There's not enough connective material to bridge the real world and the labyrinth worlds, I feel.
Yep. Well, I feel the same way as well.
Yeah. It kind of, I mean, Gekidan Inukuri, they're directing the series, not just providing like art and creative direction on the labyrinths, because in the original series that was their sole role. So in this one, I mean, I think they know how to depict the real world, or Kamihama City, I should say, and they know how to construct the labyrinths, but I don't think they know how to bridge the two. That seems to be their big weakness in terms of like visually pacing everything. So I at this point, I don't really have any hope for that to improve, but
yeah,
I guess that's okay.
Yeah, it's still a fun watch.
It's for me, it's a complaint generator.
All right,
but because I watch something and I'm like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about that. But it's you get to see the old Madoka characters pop in now and then, and a lot of the art is really cool, and it's all right.
All right, I think it's time for us to move on to another show.
Which one?
All right, let's go with ID Invaded.
Okay.
So this episode is Circle. So we got into like the mind of the girl who was supposedly like the real grave digger behind.
Yeah, her name is Inami.
Yep. All right. First thing though, how the hell would the girl? Okay, I'm looking up her name now.
Hondomachi.
Hondomachi can shoot the other guys like through the hole, through the hole in his forehead, and apparently he was alive.
What do you mean? Apparently he was alive. Oh, after she shot the bullet through.
After the shot, yeah. After the shot.
Of course.
It missed.
I mean, this episode is completely ridiculous. Because I think the idea is that she shot at him through the hole in his forehead because she wanted to kill him with the knife.
What? All right.
Remember that, like, at the end when she's talking to what's his face?
Yep. The boss. Yes.
No, not the boss. The boss is somebody else. We've met him only like once or twice.
All right, the guy with the glasses.
Yeah. What is his name? It starts with an M. Matsuoka. I'm pretty sure is his name. When she's talking to Matsuoka in that final scene, he is like, he tells her that he put her name forward for this position of like brilliant detective in order to protect himself and his coworkers because she has like the makings of a serial killer. Yep. So I think the idea is she wanted to kill this guy like with her own two hands. By this guy I mean, what's his name?
The Gravedigger.
Well, the Gravedigger was actually Inami. The other guy. The guy whose signals. Yeah, I think that was his name.
Yep.
The guy whose signals were like scrambled in his brain, and he conflated love and killing intent.
That's the guy.
Yeah, so she wanted to kill him like with her own two hands.
All right, so that answered your question from the last week. You said,
what was my question last week?
Yeah, your question last week was that Haruka got drilled to his forehead, and then he he got mad. He doesn't realize between affection, between his love and the drive for killing. So so for this girl, so now that hole in her forehead taking effect.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
That's
so
why she. Yeah.
that's why she transformed from the like normal harmless girl to like the one who actually enjoy killing.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that because doesn't the whole suicide angle, like her attempted suicide when they get her cognition particles when she like pushes her head into the drill.
Yep.
I think that's also one of the attempted killings that Matsuoka is like afraid of when he is talking about this girl as like a potential, like you have to be a serial killer. You have to have the makings of a serial killer, I suppose, in order to become a brilliant detective.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think that was before, that instance was before she had the hole in her head, and she still like presses her head towards the drill.
Yep.
I don't know. The show's logic is just very difficult to follow. You know, the
Yeah.
impossibility of the bullet passing through the guy's head, the shaky logic by which this girl is somehow like a serial killer, and everyone needs to be protected from her. Everything about it is it only
Yep.
makes sense if you really think about it and attempt to connect all the pieces.
It doesn't make sense at all. I think that the whole a whole thing is just a thread of logic, but they just it makes us to just roll with their logic basically.
Pretty much.
Especially on this episode where that the staff have a discussion about like who's the real
John Walker.
John Walker in real life, and they think that like like one of them was John Walker. And,
right.
And
that scene was
just,
awful.
Yeah, I mean like it just makes us to believe their logic in that, like so maybe they was right, but they back up with like like the whole logic how get there. It's very sloppy for me. It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, it's not only is it kind of far-fetched, it's also easy to lose focus during that scene because it's so boring.
It is.
It's just them talking for 5 minutes in one location, which is only filmed from like 5 different angles or something.
Yep.
The camera stays motionless for so long.
We have like each of them, like take turn talking about some BS bullshit, and that's basically it. It was very boring scenes.
Yep. Yeah, it was the worst. It was the worst part of this episode for me.
Yeah, but I do like the dream sequence, the well where Sakaido get into the train and it's just run around in circle. I actually like the implication of that.
What the implication of the train never reaching its station, its destination?
Of Inami my state.
Right.
Like she just sit there. She become a passenger. She doesn't want to leave that train. She just run around in circles. She have black boy who are sit like in a like just close to her, but
across the aisle.
Yeah, but never really want to approach her, and she fight with that. So that like the whole thing. So let's speak to her situation right now. I think
that was Haruka.
That was Haruka. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that kind of explains their relationship, the way it exists as like puppet master and murderer.
Yep.
In the real world,
I think that implication speak more to their characters and their chemistry than like the whole thing that the show trying to spell it out. So
yeah, it works pretty well, and the Sakaido being on the train as well, like because he enters through the well like you said.
Yeah.
It makes sense for him. It makes sense for his character too. Like the show is able to add to his character through that same imagery, even though it's not a part of his subconscious and he's in someone else's mind. I'm sure that he is in a similar state, because until he solves his family's murder, or until he brings that person to justice, whatever it is that he's looking for, he's also stuck in a loop.
Yep. Yep.
Like this scene where he's I can't remember the name of that girl. It's Kaeru, right? Kaeru, the girl who always appears, the murder victim who always appears when he enters someone's subconscious, because it kickstarts his memory of who he is and why he's there.
Yep. So it has been a while. Like I think they mentioned about Carol in episode 2, so I don't remember much clearly. But is she actually real? Was she real?
I don't know if she's real.
Yeah.
I think from what we know so far, I think she's just a construct. That is put into like the ID invaded the Edo system or whatever, in order to remind, because when the great detective enters someone's subconscious, their personality and their memory is wiped. Because you can't, I guess the idea is that it would be impossible for someone to retain their own sense of being while existing literally in someone else's mind. So the only identity they have is that they're the brilliant detective, and that's only triggered when they see Kaeru. But I'm sure that Kaeru has some link to the real world, like through someone, and that might be something that's revealed as we go.
Yep.
Maybe some other member of the task force or whatever that was a friend of theirs or something.
I think I think that was correct, because remember the other guy, the first serial killer who drilled hole. He when they tried to use him, he entered and he saw Carol as well. So it's she's not someone just like in Sakaido subconscious mind. I think she served as a trigger to for them to like get a hold of what's going on. So
that makes sense. And I mean, it does appear as though Sakaido has formed some sort of attachment to her, though, because of the way he reacts to her death in this particular instance. Like on this train. Maybe he experiences the emotions of the person whose mind he is existing in. Maybe the grief that he was feeling over Kaeru's death was like the buried sense of sadness in Inami's mind that she wasn't allowing herself to experience. Because she never reaches her destination on the train that loops in a circle. And I really did like that shot when it zooms out of the train, or I guess zooms is not the right word, but when we see the train like illuminated at night in the forest driving in a circle.
And that was the train that her mother was supposed to be run over by.
Right. Well, in real life, she was.
Yeah. So in real life.
Yeah.
So that just signals like how her mind had been affected by that incident.
Right. Although I mean the idea is really really clever, and this episode uses it well. But I do feel as though we don't know Inami's character, and I mean this is the same complaint I had with Magia Record. Like we only met Inami last week. From what I remember, we've been working on the Gravedigger case for like 3 episodes now. We've only known Inami for 2, and there was no mention of her. I don't think there was any mention in passing, even when, like, let's say the technicians who work at the police station, and they're always pulling up information about like what Sakaido is seeing and stuff, like background information on people. I don't think we even learned that her mother was dead at any point before this. Just getting a greater sense of who people are before their big emotional or climactic moments is really important. And this, I think this anime has missed the boat on that a few times.
I think which makes sense in this case, because her Inami characters were revealed by Hondomachi last week. So I think last week was supposed to be like suspense. We didn't know that Inami have that kind of impact to the current serial killings. So it's kind of twist. So these episodes when we get finally get into the world, the mind of her, that we learn that she also experienced some trauma when she was young. But I understand your concern. I think that this show, ID Invaded, was great when it's doing on these Saikaido went through the well, and on these the pictures symbolism talk about like the mindset of the characters that he went into. I think that was really smart from the show. Other than that, though, like in real life, the characters in real life are not that good.
Yeah, there's some problems with the script.
Yep.
But it's kind of the show is still just strange enough.
Yep.
Has enough potential and enough unintentional comedy that you can keep on watching. I was actually going to ask about that. Like, as we're halfway through the season almost. Is there anything that you want to drop?
If I have to pick between this one and My Get Red Coat, I want to drop My Get Red Coat.
I mean, is there anything that you'd be actually interested in dropping in favor of something else?
So like not actively. If something that we can drop, I will think of my Get Record, and I think of Doro gonna be a replacement. But
not Kyoko Suiri, or however you say it.
Yeah, Kyoko Suiri could be a good one as well. So up to you basically. I'm still okay to talk about my Get Record for the rest of the season.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm fine doing these four for now.
Alright. Also, like in this episode of ID Invaded, I think it's very clear that they want to put Hondomachi with Saikaido for the rest of the season. To put them
what do you mean?
One team.
Oh, I don't think they'll be entering people's subconsciousness
together.
Together, yeah, I doubt it.
Alright.
We haven't seen anyone do that up until this point.
Yeah.
And it does seem like a very solitary experience,
Yep.
One person waking up alone in an unfamiliar environment.
Because they didn't meet one another in one of the well before.
Yeah, but that's because you can encounter the person whose subconscious you're inhabiting. Within their own mind. Like he did that in this episode, for example. He talked with Inami on the train. And when he was in her subconscious, that's when he saw her, right? Or he talked to her when he was in her subconscious.
That was before. So he was in someone's, I don't remember which one's subconscious. And
it was the guy, the killer.
Right, so yeah, when he was in the killer subconscious, when she actively put her head into the drill, they pick up the whatever things,
the cognition particles or something.
Yep, and that when he saw her entering the well.
Oh, that wasn't when he actually went into her subconscious.
Yeah,
he does that.
There was that later as well, but it was really short because they were all killed by the drill.
Oh yeah, the drill comes down and that's right, and smashes everything.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, yeah.
So yep, or maybe put them together in real life.
That'll probably happen. Yes. I'm sure that they're all kept in one particular part of the police department, like a particular ward or something. That's where Saikaido, whose real name is something else, I don't remember. And then Hondomachi will be there, and whatever the guy with the weird skin graft that's like stapled to his face,
Yep.
the green hair and the whole. I'm sure he'll be there too, you know, because they're keeping him around.
Yep. And they have a good talk about life and philosophy and existence, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, whatever criminals or great brilliant detectives,
Yep.
Get around to talking about late
They
at night
have-
when they're in their cells.
Yep. All right. Let's move on to another show.
All right.
Let's go with Ezuken.
This was the first episode of Eizouken that I thought was kind of off the mark.
All right. I think I can see why. I think this is the episode where they mix up the formula. So when they don't go to the formula that we usually see.
I mean, I guess it does seem like a logical extension of the story to me. Now that they're done with their project and they've secured funding, they are looking to do more work.
Yeah, I just mean like for the last four episodes we only see the three main girls as the main, but in this episode we have like the whole other cast, and I'm like I'm not that fun with these new cast. I think they're alright, so like just more or less like them.
I mean, it's not as though they're going to become
Yeah.
characters who show up all the time. They're just
That's right.
they're just here for this episode, probably the next one, maybe the one after that.
Yep.
Until they finish this mecha short.
But I
they're
think
gonna be
gonna be the
working
next one, the next episodes.
Well, maybe. I mean, the show does not shy away from depicting how costly and how like time consuming and lengthy a process that animation can be. So it won't necessarily be wrapped up just in another 22 minutes. They might run longer than that. There might be some sort of issue that arises, financial or artistic or material, that bleeds into episode 7, even after the one after this.
Yep. But do you like? I actually like the sequence before that when the trio come into the underground thingy.
Yeah, it's difficult. Like I can't remember exactly where they are in the school.
Yeah, whatever they are in, they actually fall through like one of the pit, and when we see the our main girl have like all these Midori have all the survival skill, survival stuff that she have in her bag.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me.
That's amazing for me. All right.
How is someone's utility knife, pocket knife, whatever it was that she had, how is that heavy enough to support her weight as she climbs up? Just putting it in a sock and attaching a piece of string to it or whatever that wire rope was, that's not heavy enough to support her weight.
I have no idea.
She wouldn't be able to climb up. The thing would just unwind itself from whatever she had thrown it onto, and she would fall.
Yep.
She's like 100-pound girl.
Well,
It's completely implausible. When I was like that wasn't even one of the show's like fantasy sequences.
It's not.
That literally happened. I was like, no, they should be dead. The gas in that little pit or whatever where the leaves were decomposing should have killed them. And Eizouken is a 5-episode OVA, and it's over.
I also see that the episode on the show in particular really fun of mecha. So like there's a love of of designing a giant robot. Have you seen the Iron Giant?
Yes,
the
I have.
Iron Giant. You have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it like is the show like resembling that movie? like
What do you mean? Like the design of the robot that they're making? Does that resemble the Iron Giant?
Uh-huh.
No, not at all.
All right, because I haven't
The Iron
seen
Giant is literally just a big iron humanoid giant. It doesn't have any special weapons. It doesn't it just looks purely functional.
Right.
The film's really good.
I'm gonna watch it one day.
It's really, really good. And it was one of the last, I think it was one of the last great 2D animated films to come out of. Well, I mean, I'm not familiar with all the 2D animation that's still being done in America. I'm sure plenty of it is still happening, just not at major studios.
Right.
But I think it was one of the last great 2D major releases, like theatrical nationwide releases that America has seen. And it was 21 years ago at this point, I think.
That's
that
right.
It came out.
It was directed by Brad Bird, which Brad Bird, who would become, I think, the giant figure in
Pixar.
In Pixar, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even he sold his soul to the 3D CG devil.
Well, I'm not saying those are devil with the level of of quality from from Pixar. Even down to the visual, I think he did a great job.
Well, yeah, but I was complaining about
the death of the
not
2D.
not enough 2D.
Yep, I can understand that.
Anyway, yeah, this is nothing like the Iron Giant. In fact, I'm guessing that it is like something else. Not the robot design, but like specifically the beginning of this episode when Asakusa and Mizusaki are like sneaking around, and because she catches a glimpse of a robot, and so they go back to try to scope it out and see. And they're sneaking around, and the colors of the series are very dim during this point before she gets hit by the water bottle and everything returns to like reality,
Yep.
And the colors they brighten up again, and there's like a really ominous like brass soundtrack that sounds pretty out of date and kind of suspenseful.
Yep.
That is playing during this opening scene when they're trying to. It's like a reconnaissance mission where they're trying to spot the robot. I'm sure that entire thing was like lifted from some other mecha series. Given how stylized it was, it just felt like a very specific. It felt too specific not to be a reference to something, and I haven't seen whatever it was that the show was parodying. It wasn't Gundam because I've seen the original Gundam, and it wasn't Giant Robo. It obviously wasn't Astro Boy. That's hardly a mecha series in the sense of it being like a real robot show, like the guys from the Robot Society, the Robot Club. We're talking about real robots. If I had to guess, I would say it was probably Tetsujin 28, but I haven't seen that. So.
It just those sequence just remind me of Noir. So like it's like being a detective and like find out that something was wrong with like something that they find that is wrong. So it just remind me of Noir. So I think it's just more like a spoof of the genre. Then like have specific show that they want to spoof. But
I don't know. There was no hard-boiled narration.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to have the internal monologue, like the wry quips and stuff.
Yep.
It's going to be noir, and I don't think there was any of that. I just imagine that, like, let's say, for example, that it was parodying or referencing Tetsujin 28, which was, I think, the first series to have like a kid or someone piloting like a giant robot from inside.
Oh, really? Right.
No, actually, perhaps Tetsujin 28 was just the first giant robot series ever, and a kid used it like a remote control. I can't remember the order of like which robot series, pioneered all all the different landmarks, let's say, in the genre. Like first series to have a giant robot, first series to have someone piloting the giant robot from inside. I don't remember which one that was exactly, but it just felt very specific to me.
Yep.
And it didn't, like, that scene specifically did not set the episode off on a good note. I didn't connect with it in any way. I feel like that not enough of the robot was shown the first time that Asakusa got a glimpse of it, and just the angles used to capture her second attempt at spying on it didn't really give the sense that it was anything that would like have captured her that way. We saw it so briefly, and I guess the idea there was to build suspense about like what exactly it was that she was looking at or intrigued by. But if you're going to get that sense of intrigue from a character, there needs to be something there to really surprise them or capture their attention or whatever. I don't know. I just that scene didn't start things off well for me. And that's probably why I didn't like the episode as much.
Yeah, all right. How about
There's
like the latest scene?
Long rant about that.
Oh, good. How do you feel about the latest scene where the Owl Club, their club, having like an argument with the Robot Club, basically blackmailing them? I think.
Well, attempted blackmail, but it doesn't work out in Kanamori's favor because the other two girls empathize, with the president of the Robot Club. They start confessing stuff like, I practice Hadokens in my room every night before I go to sleep. The scene was fine, I guess.
Right.
It's interesting that other characters are brought into the design process, which is usually reserved for just those, the three main girls. It's only them in the fantasy world, but now they've brought other people into it. And I think it's sort of symbolically appropriate that as the show goes on, more people would be brought into that fantasy space.
Yep.
Like it doesn't just belong to these three characters. If the show is about sharing knowledge and passion for animation, then bringing other people into that world makes sense, like metaphorically.
Yep.
However, like I don't know. It's this whole plot that we've embarked on, which is going to last 1-2 more episodes, however long it takes, is not really to my interest, I suppose.
Well,
once they get into the actual like animation of it, the actual creation of it, I think I'll be more on board because that stuff is really interesting to me.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I think that next week they're gonna start doing like the actual animating and storyboarding.
Right.
So that's so good.
Right.
Just a bit off topic, since we're talking about the mecha. I just one thing that that I on my mind is that I don't think that 2010s decade have too many good mecha anime.
Well, yeah, a character literally says that in this episode.
Oh,
it's not off topic.
Did they say that? Oh, all right.
Yeah, Kanamori says, "Oh yeah, there's not much TV mecha anime being made these days." And, as she's saying it, the camera is panning across the disappointed faces of everyone in the robot society. And then she thinks to herself, or she makes a comment to like Asakusa next to her. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Yeah, there hasn't been that much. What mecha series have come out in the 2010s?
Yeah, that's the thing, because we can't.
There have been a lot of Gundams.
Yep.
A lot of Gundam OVAs, specifically a couple TV series.
Promare? Do you count that as a mecha?
Oh, it definitely is.
All right. Yep. So here's
Promare is a mecha. There have been other things like Star Driver was a mecha.
Yeah, that's right.
Came at the very beginning of this decade. But I mean, Bones was the one mostly holding it down, I guess. Sunrise too. Star Driver was Bones, I believe, and Captain Earth was them as well. There was a PA Works one. I think it was PA Works. Maybe it wasn't. Kuro Mukuro.
Oh, right.
The one where all the mech stuff was like 3D.
Yeah, PA Works, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Based on the character designs.
Mm.
There were other ones. There was like Alderamen on the Sky. I
Oh,
think that
that
was
that link in the
a manga.
Franks.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
Don't
right.
forget that.
Oh, how could I? I mean, I could forget about it very easily. It show left
Yeah.
very little impact on me. The best part was easily the last few episodes where it just got so ridiculous that it was just hilarious. Like the scene
Yeah.
when they're in. Did you finish it?
Oh yeah, I did.
The scene where they're in space, and they're headed towards the enemy's galaxy or black hole or whatever,
Right.
and like the what's her name,
Oh,
02, like
02,
their ship, their spaceship, literally transforms into like her head or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Like I can't remember exactly the details of what was going on there. Was it their ship was taking on her appearance, or she herself turned into a giant version of herself?
I think she's turned into the giant version of herself, but I can't say for sure.
I just remember the visual of her, like her giant head floating through space.
Yep.
Was so funny. Like I felt like I was on drugs when I was watching it.
Yeah, that's sad that we can't think of like a good one. I really enjoy Star Rival, by the way. It had the same structure with Utena because it's come from the same writer. It just that I don't see anyone talking about that show anymore.
I mean, I watched like 2 episodes of Star Driver and just stopped.
Huh.
I was like, this is dumb,
Right.
but I certainly want to try again, because since that time I've seen Utena,
Yep.
which I enjoyed a lot. So
It had the same like repetitive structure where he fight like each of these of the characters in one episode, and then reset the whole thing. So it had that same thing. All right, I think let's just move on to the last show, Chihaya Furu, with the king and queen matches.
okay, cool. Chihaya Furu. What how'd you feel? How'd you feel about this episode?
It was alright. It's still the match itself is still a bit too quick for me. I want to see more. I other than that though, I like how the story goes. I like how Harada Sensei and Inokuma won the first match.
They did indeed.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, no,
sorry.
Shinobu.
Actually,
Shinobu won.
Shinobu, yep. But they were all close matches.
Yeah, that's true. They were both down to the final card, which makes it that much more like disappointing that you don't get to see the lead up to it. The show's like literally throwing out luck of the draw situations, final card situations left and right. But do we get any of the lead up to any of them? No. But I did. Go ahead.
That's a bit of a shame.
I did have, I did have a thought about that, which is, like, I can kind of understand why the show's focus has shifted, because we're dealing in this season with much higher levels of play than we have in the past. Like,
that's
in
true.
the past 2 years, for example, there's been a large focus on the high school team championship, where all of the major characters are sitting on the mat.
Oh,
and none of the major characters are like in the audience watching.
So they can move between one match to another.
Yeah, or just if it's a team match, like one character to another, all sitting in a line.
Right.
And the show, as a consequence of that, the show will be focused on the game for long periods of time, and will probably show characters like more gradually making progress in the game, taking cards one after another.
Yeah.
Just because it's staying in that space. Whereas in this season, since there are so many matches featuring non-core characters like Inokuma, like Harada Sensei, like Meijin Suo, there are often main characters in the audience or not even present at the match. And so I feel as though the show's focus overall has changed. It's more about the big picture, and it's more about Karuta as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that change in like kind of direction is reflected in the way that Karuta matches are shown. There isn't a strong focus on like the flow of the match or the progression of the match.
Yep, I get what you mean. Um, I still think that shows in this match, like his mind were his attention was miles away for once.
Yeah, because he had that
Uh,
conversation on the phone beforehand and afterward.
yep. I do think that he was talking to his mom or his father who, but we don't know that for sure. I think that's gonna be more relevant in the next episodes.
Yeah, I mean it could be his mother or father, but I'm thinking maybe like grandmother or grandfather, because
The
they
one who
didn't.
nearly died.
The what?
Someone who like on the verge of dying or something.
No, I mean we know what the phone call was about. The
Yeah,
second
yeah.
phone call that we get, it's somebody trying to watch his match online, but it's
Yep.
not. Remember, it's not on TV in the way that it has been in years past. Instead, it's being streamed on Nico Nico.
Yep.
You know,
Yep,
when
yep, yep, yep.
we see Arata like sick in bed, watching the match. And that was one of the moments that I really loved from this episode, where he types out that long ass explanation of the like the display board and the card boys and the card girls. Who he types out a really long explanation for everyone in the chat, I suppose, and then it scrolls across the screen forever.
Yeah.
But he is trying to Suo is trying to give instructions to someone about how to watch his match, and he says like go talk to Mr. So and so next door. He'll be able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like it might be his grandmother or something that he's on the phone with.
Mm. There are two of the developments that I don't really like though. I think that more like a foreshadowing technique that they use. First one is Inokuma, when I think like one of the moment where she think where I think she say to her to someone, I think to the girl, that like watch her because that's gonna be her final queen match.
Yeah. Well, she
Remember?
says something to Rion. She says, watch me
Rion,
closely,
yeah.
because I can't remember the words that she uses exactly, but yeah, it's something to that effect. Like, this might be,
My last
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something
And
like that.
I was like, oh my god, don't say that. I really want her to stay for for much longer, but it actually like clear the path for Chihara and Shinobu for next year.
Well, yeah, I guess so, but like thinking less about the future and more about Inokuma's character, I think it makes sense that she would say that, because I mean she's been torn between at certain points throughout the season. She's been torn between Karuta and her family.
Mm.
She really struggled with that at like in the lead up to the challenger match against Megumu.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that perhaps she has arrived at the conclusion that this, even though she loves Karuta the way that she does, the fact that she's reached this game is enough for her. Like, this is because she was queen 4 times before.
Right.
So if she wins, this will be her 5th, and I think you need 5 consecutive wins in order to become an eternal master. But maybe in her mind, like the 5th win is enough if she gets it. Or even if she doesn't, her 5th appearance in the queen match perhaps is enough for her.
I can see that's sentiments. I just feel that she is the best when she playing Karuta, so she should still stay in the game.
I mean, she has a baby.
Well,
She's literally breastfeeding at tournaments.
All right.
Like
give him like 2 more years. He doesn't need breastfeeding anymore, and she can be more free to play. So it's not the end at all,
I don't know. I feel like it. she
Yep.
may feel differently as the mother, like as the one raising the child.
Yeah. Well, the second foreshadowing is Chihara, I think, dreams of she playing the queen match in the future with that I think that what we were talking about last week with Arata and handsome boy in the final match. That was
Ar-
scene one.
Arata and Taichi.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely when she what is she thinking about exactly that makes her picture um, all the different
Um,
all those different people, because it's not as though Taichi and Arata like pop up on screen immediately.
yeah, that's right. I don't remember what lit her up to that. I think it's just like the maybe just it's just the moment she imagined herself playing the queen match, and with someone that she really like want to be with.
I mean, don't a bunch of other people pop up on screen as well before
I
that?
remember distinctively that the king match gonna be the other two guys, those two guys.
Yeah, that I remember too. But like the context of the scene, I don't think she's just like daydreaming about. Oh man, wouldn't it be great if Arata and Taichi were in the king match?
Yeah, well,
Let me see here. I'm opening up the episode. I'm in here.
oh, all right. Maybe she thinking about like who she gonna, who she gonna tell bring as a as a like there's like a girl and boy who's supporting putting up these
The
the
card,
cat.
yes, the card boys and the card girls. That's who she's thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
and
think
she
that
she
was
does think
leading
about
to
like
that.
all the different members of the Mizusawa Karate Club before
Right.
Taichi eventually pops up on screen. Yeah,
Huh.
and what she's thinking that he'll be like perhaps playing in the Meijin match, and then one of the guys from their club will be able to, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, that took us a while to figure out, huh?
Hmm.
All my notes about this episode are, I mean, that's the kind of smaller thing that I might not. Well, it depends on how engaged I am in the episode, what kind of notes I take down. But like for this one, all my notes are tied up with episode 16 because I wrote that post together.
All right. Yeah. Hmm.
Anyway, yeah, there is a lot of foreshadowing in this episode, I suppose. Even though it's like the biggest event of the year in terms of the Karate season.
Hmm.
Even so, the show's, it's kind of got that big picture focus that I was talking about before. It's thinking about how all the characters where they are in their own journeys and where they might be headed in the future, and it's not all about what's going on between like Harada and Suo, for example, because Suo is trying to manipulate the match the way that he typically does in order to have the same card count as the queen match, but he accidentally creates a. I mean that I don't really like that about his character, and like just logically,
Hmm.
how would he be able to control his opponent's game that effectively? It
Yeah.
doesn't make a lot
Well,
of sense,
it doesn't like if you say something some other sport like ping pong or like tennis, you can see that could be a factor. Like he played a way that make you feel uncomfortable, that you make a lot of mistake. But
Yeah.
for this type of game, I don't think that can be much of a factor.
Yeah, I don't either. And I'm not familiar with Karuto at all. I've never played it. My only
Yep.
knowledge of it comes from this series. But yeah, it's true. Like in tennis, you could like focus on try to jam your opponent, like hitting it really
Yep.
close to the baseline every time if that's where they're
Yep.
playing. Or you could try to hit cross court shots consistently, like aim the ball where they're least likely to be, or to one spot in particular every time, forcing them to constantly like double back to a particular place on the court. And in Karate, I don't know. I don't see that.
Yeah, it's not necessary about tactic either. It's more, it's also more of a trick. Like you when you serve, for example, you take more time to bounce the ball to throw the opponent pace off. Something like that.
You definitely can do something like that in karate, and Harada Sensei is actually famous for that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well,
remember when he was asking people like he was asking people to adjust the temperature in the room during his match with Arata.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Like for example, you can constantly like rearranging your cards like Arata did against him.
Yep.
That's another, because if your opponent is still rearranging their cards, you have to keep your arm raised to signal to the reader not to begin while your opponent does that.
Pick up the card, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So there are ways that you can mess with people. But that doesn't seem to be what Suo does. He like somehow controls his opponents.
I think the thing that we feel not right was because in order to do that tactic, they have to be like either aggressive or manipulative. So have to be like outward. And for sure, he's more like inward. He more like he doesn't actively trying to mess with other people.
Well, when he's playing against Chihaya, he does like, and this is one of the problems with karate matches not being depicted in detail. We hear from people observing the match mostly that he kind of like two cards, for example, that have the same beginning syllable but not the. But they differentiate on the second or third. That's where they differ. Yeah. He will intentionally go for the wrong card because his hearing is better than everyone else's. So he'll go for the wrong card and force his opponent to kind of like chase him, and make them commit faults, so that he can give his cards to them. Like when your opponent commits a fault, you give one of your cards to them.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of strategy that he employs, but I don't know that's like what if your opponent doesn't take the bait?
Yeah, well, the thing is they all take the bait.
Yeah, well,
but all but Tai Chi.
Oh yeah, that's true. In episode 16, Suo does make some sort of comment to the effect that like Tai Chi is really dangerous because he doesn't fall for the same tricks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So.
Maybe we'll get a Tai Chi arc after this.
And the king and the queen match is gonna be a set of 5, the best of 3. Oh, best of 5, I think.
No, I think it is best of 3.
All right, because I remember they mentioned that the master gonna be best of 5 though.
Oh.
So maybe it's best of 3 for the queen and best of 5 for the master, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I thought I heard in this episode that it was just best of 3 straight up, but I could be wrong.
And one other little detail that I really like in the episodes is the one of the cat girl. I'm not a fan of the game. I'm not a fan of the.
She cares more about the players than the game.
Yeah, she the fan of the players of the game. So I think that really interesting.
Yeah, I wonder. I kind of want. Oh, you know what? We haven't talked about Shinobu at all, even though she was like the best in this episode.
Yeah, true.
We're running out of time.
I just feel that she's a really lonely person in this show.
I mean, the way her mom talks to her in the green room is, and like, there's hardly anyone in her green room. We see all the other ones.
Yep.
And they're all full. Well, I mean, Inokuma, it's mostly, it's her family, but obviously that's huge if your family is there with you. Harada and Suo both have, gigantic fan clubs in their room. And, poor Shinobu, her mom tells her that she's just like an attractive advertisement, kind of ruining the connection that she made with her grandmother in the previous episode.
Yeah, true.
And like tarnishing the kimono that she's wearing, making it like a terrible burden instead of like a symbol of support. And then she hears that Chihaya like skipped a class trip to, she went on a class trip in favor of, like, rather than going to a big karate tournament, and that just pisses her off to no end, because she's the one who is like the Karuta is her only like solace. You know, the cards are her only friends, and so when she hears that one of her rivals, you know, someone else who has a great knack for the game, was willing to skip out on a tournament in order to do something like go on a class trip, she's like, she can't listen to it. She just storms out of the room.
Right.
Like
I
really,
wonder if that's gonna affect her. Is that gonna affect her performance?
Oh, no doubt.
In the next match.
No doubt. She's guaranteed to lose the next game. Whether she'll lose the whole thing, probably not. But this is obvious comeback time for Inokuma.
Yeah. All right. So another foreshadowing for the match.
Yeah, although that's less direct, and it's more like you can just logically infer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
That's where the show would go.
All right.
And of course, Suo is going to win his next game.
Yeah.
Playtime. Playtime is going to be over, and he's just going to be like, "Well, I'm the Meijin, and it's time to blow everybody out."
Right. It's sad to say, but I think Shuo is like one of my least favorite characters out of the cast right now.
Yeah,
I can't relate to his characters.
Well, his play style is largely dependent on other people telling us what his play style is, and we don't know much about him as an individual. Like his quirks kind of define him.
Yep.
Rather than his relationships.
Yep.
And Shinobu, at least, even though she doesn't have a lot of strong relationships, the ones that she does have are kind of damaged, and we do get the sense, like you said, that she's lonely, she's isolated. Whereas with Suo, it's probably something similar for him. When he told Chihaya at the end of episode 15, you can't become the queen. Mm-hmm. Like, you have all this stuff going for you. Like, you're beautiful, you're well liked by people. Yeah, you have a boyfriend. when he tells her all of that, and he says to her, "You can't become the queen." That's really cold-hearted of him to say.
Yep.
But we don't know enough about him in order to understand where that's coming from. I have to imagine that it's because he himself has none of that, and he also feels alone. But that's just me. That's just speculation at this point.
Yep.
So
we need to enter to his world in order to find out what his character is.
We need to get the brilliant detective on the case.
That's right, and poor Kaoru.
That's right. Get Kaoru in there.
All right. I think let's move on to Punpun.
Yeah, we spent too long talking about stuff that isn't Punpun. Doesn't even matter. Next to the brilliance of Punpun.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this episode of Punpun. In this volume of Punpun, sorry.
Yeah, chapters 13 to 23 is where we're at specifically.
Yep.
And I mean, it starts with the resolution of the whole factory, the miso factory plot, where they go and try to find the dead bodies and the 100 million yen or whatever it was.
What do you take from that? From that single plot?
What do I take from it?
Yep. What do they all mean?
It's less about what the plot means, I think, and more about what the characters experience.
Right. Yep. True.
And I mean, they don't find the body. We learned from a news broadcast later in the hospital that the bodies were found, and I think they were at the factory.
Yeah. They were indeed in there.
Yeah,
they didn't find it though. They actually come there not to find the body, but to find the money.
Right. So perhaps the money was there. I can't remember whether the money was there, like whether the TV said if the money was there with them.
They didn't say anything.
Yeah, it was just it was mostly about the bodies, because that's how that's what people would be concerned about. Like adults watching would be like, oh, the horror, 3 bodies, but the kids are thinking, let's get this money. This is more money than we've ever had in our lives.
Yeah.
Let's go and get it. And the difference between how children interpret things, or the things that they care about and that they value, and the difference between that and what adults value is really on display in this volume, like extremely so. And I took a whole bunch of notes about it, and when my eyes pass over them, perhaps I'll be reminded of it, and we can talk about it.
All right. I also see that it was like an experience for all the cast member, because I think that with the time skip we see them growing up as well, and see how they struggle with life and the relationship from each of them to another. I don't think that they're gonna be ever the same like the 5 or 6 of them together or going on the trip like this.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, one of them moves away. What is his
Immediately.
name? Harumi moves away. And he gives his bike to Punpun before he goes, and he gives his PlayStation controller to Komatsu.
Yep.
Komatsu being like the one character who is still present after the time skip, I think, on the badminton team.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still some link for, like what was the name of their club? Like the Porn Hunt Association or something like that, because they were always looking for those nude magazines.
Right.
But like of their little band of brothers,
Mm-hmm.
Komatsu is the only one who is still like a major player in Punpun's life, I think.
I do think that we're gonna see like those characters from that stamp skip.
Yeah, I
We'll see
think we
more of
will.
them.
Yeah, they were significant enough in this first kind of era of the Punpun saga, that they'll
And
probably recur. Even Harumi, who
right,
moved away, I have to imagine we'll see him again, in some capacity.
they actually see one girl there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
In
What was her deal?
yeah, that's the thing. She was bleeding. She said like she got hit by her
Her dad.
dad.
Yeah, and that sort of thing happens all the time. They shouldn't worry about it. Just have fun and
Yep.
play in the factory.
She
Yeah,
just appeared randomly. I just wonder like maybe was she like one of the ghosts, one of the person who killed.
maybe she was the ghost. Maybe she was
Yeah.
actually a ghost. That's interesting. I mean,
Right.
Punpun is the kind of
Scary.
manga that would do something like that.
Yep.
It's
Yep. For
interested
sure.
in the absurd and in like playing with your expectations a bit. So that could be.
Yeah. Talking about absurd.
What about it?
Talking about all right. Poon Poon experience like like the moment before like all the thing flashing his eyes before he gonna die. And the one thing that the manga focus on is that he wanted to pee.
Yeah, that's right. Um, in chapter
I
12, like the very end of the first volume, he feels as though he has to pee, and then the manga keeps bringing it up,
Yep.
over and over. Uh,
I don't know though that it is what they said, like if he wanted to pee or if he have like some of sexual interest because of
well,
alcohol
he
or not.
does pop a boner when she holds his hand
Yep.
at
Yep.
in when it first brings it up again in chapter 13. Like he really has to pee, and then because she holds his hand, he gets an erection, and when that happens, you kind of go into a different mode where you don't have to urinate anymore. Just that's, I mean, like physiologically, that's what's happening. So I suppose that's why his need to, tinkle is delayed. And then but he actually does wet himself. He pees himself
Yep. Yep. Yep.
because you can see the
Yep.
puddle, like when that shadowed figure is approaching them, and we don't learn who that is either, do we?
No, we don't. We don't.
Yeah, just the explosion happens and kind of overshadows everything else.
Yep. Yep. It's so strange. I mean like the whole thing. There are a lot of like mysteries around that haven't been explained. That maybe just there to mess with our expectation.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
But it was memorable nonetheless.
Yeah, it definitely, like, this the strangeness of it, and you know how much of an adventure it must have seemed like to the kids,
Yep.
and the
Yep.
opportunity that it gave them to be like heroic, like Shimi,
Mhm.
who is constantly being made fun of or like harassed by his friends for like believing in the god of poop, you know, or
Yep.
hallucinating a bunch of stuff, thinking that he can do a Kamehameha from Dragon Ball. Um, he gets the opportunity to be a hero. You know, when he finds a way for everyone else to escape, he lifts open the door.
He come back to self icon.
Yeah, and he comes back. Yeah, and Seki, the guy who is bullying him the hardest, um, realizes that
The most
Shimi
useless.
is a hero. Yeah, and he
Yep.
in comparison is useless. And then afterwards, in chapter 17, I think it is. That's the one where we get that 2-page spread of all of them looking up at the night sky with the shooting star.
Yep.
Man,
Oh,
that scene really hit me.
that was a good shot.
But they're all holding hands in that moment, and that starts with Seki and Shima, because he has come around, or Shimi, because he's come around to Shimi's point of view. Like, he earned it, you know. That chapter is great. The one before it, where Punpun, where like his life flashes before his eyes.
Yep.
That chapter is amazing to me, because it starts with memories that we have already seen, like
Yep.
his
Oh, yeah,
conversations
yeah.
with Aiko and Uncle Yuichi saying there is no God, but it transitions very naturally into the night when his mother has that suicidal impulse and takes him in the taxi.
Yeah, right.
It, like, the way that it moves between the familiar and then suddenly like the new and the horrifying memory that explains why he doesn't care for his mother very much.
It's just sadness, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, it's crushing, the fact that that happened to him and that he has that memory of it, and that as like when he feels as though he's about to die, that's what passes before his eyes. Like, this kid is really messed up.
Yep.
You know, and it just makes the decision to depict him as a bird that much more appropriate to me. Like, especially the ending of chapter 22, when he comes home and we get the very last panel being "Goodnight Punpun," Oyasumi Punpun, as he's crying because of the way that his mother threatens him just beforehand. Like, imagine that scene, like the Punpun as a flesh and blood child on the couch crying bitter tears because his mother, who he has no love for, has come home, and the manga being like, "Good night, Punpun." That would be unbearably sad if that were a
Yeah.
real person. You know?
Well, this volume also does a lot of shed a lot of light for Punpun's mother as well.
Yeah.
Like, we can see her as a bit of eccentric. Like, I really like her character. She doesn't care about her child, for one thing. She rather jump off the building.
Do you think that was a suicide attempt,
I just think that she's
or do you think she actually
Yeah,
slipped,
that's-
like she says?
no. She I don't think that a suicide attempt. I just think that she just want to jump in order for her to get injury, so she doesn't have to go back to the house.
I think. Okay, I definitely differ on that. I think she was trying to kill herself. Because
Yeah,
Yuichi makes
her
a
hand
comment.
slip.
Well, she says that her hand slipped, and then he says,
Yep.
you know, well, that doesn't make any sense. And then she says, "Oh,
Yep.
well, it was my foot then."
Yep.
You know, like,
I-
she has
I-
such a devil may care attitude about what happened.
Right.
I think she's psychotic, and that she
does.
even
Yep.
after like attempting to end her own life, she, you know, her reaction to that, you know, her response to her failed attempt to end it all is not like depression or withdrawal. It's just, you know, she jokes about it.
Yep. I do think that it was intentional, but she doesn't mean to kill herself on that scene. That's just my take on it.
Right. That she's well. Yuichi says like the only reason that you weren't more injured is because you landed on the corrugated roof of the parking lot. So there are two ways to interpret that. One is she aimed for that roof, so that she would just be
Right.
injured. The other way to see it is that was a fluke that she landed on that roof.
Yeah,
She was
that's
trying to
right.
kill herself, and she just happened to. I mean, and Yuichi does call it a miracle, like
Yeah.
the
One of the dumbest miracle that has ever happened.
right. So I think, I mean, especially in light of the fact that she tried to kill herself once before, or she considered it, and we
Yeah.
see that in Punpun's memory. I think based on that, my interpretation is that she was trying to kill herself.
And I really like the fact that we learn from his uncle Yuji that she as a teenager tried to run away from home as well.
Well,
She
Did she?
she
I think that after high school, she went and traveled Europe. I think that's what he says.
oh right. So she traveling around. That's what I mean. She traveling around because she liked the idea of freedom.
Right.
And he criticized her for like she come back the same just at the same before she goes, and
Right.
still feeling lost, and still like doesn't really care about her life. I think that speaks a lot to her characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also kind of explains or helps inform because we know more about her as a result of Yuichi like telling us more about her and hearing from her character more like through dialogue. Because her character gets so much more light shed on it, we can see that Punpun is like he takes after his mother, not his father.
That's right.
They have a lot of the same personality traits, a lot of the same. Like let me see. I wrote down. Where is it that I wrote it down? I wrote down some of the similarities between he and his mom that I noted over the course of this volume.
Withdrawal.
Yes, that's definitely one. Like kind of hiding yourself away from the world.
Yeah. Depressed.
Depression for sure. The desire to travel too. Like there's this scene where he's riding his bike around and he thinks to himself, I want to go far away. Like I want to go on a journey. I wonder if on this bike I could get to Kagoshima, where Aiko wants to go.
Yeah.
And even, I would say even the suicidal impulse that his mother experienced in that flashback, I think he does something similar.
All right. Not at my attention right now. But
in chapter
I
22,
do see-
when he's riding his bike across the bridge and he goes full speed
Yep.
off the, down the
stair.
steps. Yeah.
Yep.
But it's not as though he slowly rides his bike down the steps or anything or tries to, control his fall. He recklessly drives his bike off a bridge, essentially.
Yep.
And he crashes to the road, 30, 40 feet away because he must have tumbled down the stairs. I think perhaps he wasn't thinking to himself, I want to die. Maybe he wasn't.
He just doesn't care.
Well, yeah, like that sort of recklessness and disregard for his own life.
Yep.
Comes from his mother.
That's right. Well,
Like he is his mother, just in child form, disturbingly so, for someone as young as he is.
and you see some flashback between his fathers and his mom as well.
Yeah, that's also in chapter 16 when
Yeah.
his life is flashing before his eyes. Yeah.
He basically the father trying to blame, not really blaming, but he doesn't try to get better.
What do you mean?
Well, I just mean like he had to move to another job. He had to change the location of the job, I think, and then he got fired, and then he blamed the whole company for that.
Yeah. He doesn't take responsibility for losing
And
his
then
job and
then he's drinking as well.
yes.
but then like the moment where he meet Punpun, and you know like they have like a moment together that was really heartbreaking.
What
That was
chapter?
sweet.
Chapter 21.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
that
That's
chapter
that was
was
the one.
that chapter was also strange.
How
Like
strange.
the rugby players and the girls
Oh
track
yeah,
team, whatever, who were running by, and the presence. Do you remember that? Do you remember in Volume 1 during the conversation between Punpun and Aiko, where
yep,
she's like, "Let's run away to Kagoshima."
yep,
Do you remember there's a black guy with
yep.
glasses and an afro who is present in the scene, and he follows Punpun around.
Right. This
I
one
don't.
as well.
Yeah, this one as well. Although in this one he doesn't follow Punpun, so he's not explicitly tied to Punpun's consciousness. I don't think, but maybe he is actually. Maybe him getting up from the bench and chasing after the girl whose skirt he saw. Maybe that is supposed to be like a representation of Punpun's sexuality, and so like his part of his mind
Uh,
is fixated on that.
all
I
right.
don't know. Like that's a really difficult part of that chapter and of the manga as a whole to decipher. Who
Yeah.
is that guy?
Well, I would say that the more we see in the future, if he reappear, the more uh, we can we can tell that what the role of his guy is. I would say though, because he have like an afro uh, head hair, it's the same with the god. So maybe he's not real. So like you say, maybe he just
Right.
like a a personification of a Punpun desire or something. We will see.
Yeah, it's true. He does have an afro like God. He does have glasses
Yeah.
like God. But I think that God is actually his uncle Yuichi. I think that's what his face looks like in real life.
Huh.
Because it's
I
Yuichi who teaches him the spell,
right.
and they have the
Well,
exact same square framed glasses. And Yuichi
I
also has. Go ahead.
no. Go on, go on.
Yuichi has the same kind of whimsical personality
Hmm.
um, that explains why God is always smiling the way that he does.
Hmm.
Um,
That interesting. Um,
so that's one theory.
I did think that the image is maybe some of the poster or something because we got like the same kind of face and facial expression every time, you know.
Yeah,
So I just think that maybe he just look up the face in one of the poster and it's just stick to him as this is God.
perhaps. Yeah, we don't. It's true that we don't know the origin of the image, like in the real world, if there is one.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but there, I mean, God is clearly like a figment of Punpun's imagination.
Yeah.
Because like in chapter 18, for example, after Harumi moves away and gives the
Yep.
bike to Punpun, the next scene
Mhm.
is him in his room, and he's like flopped out. He's flopped over on his bed. He's depressed, which happens a lot in, in these chapters.
Yeah.
So if you say Punpun is lying down on his bed depressed, it's difficult to like locate yourself. Okay, which time? But when we see him depressed after Harumi moves away to the next city over, like there's like 4 panels in a row of Punpun's room, and he has that door that leads out to the balcony where his telescope is that his dad gave to him,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
like that God's head like slides into frame across those 4 panels.
Yep.
So he's clearly like part of Punpun's consciousness,
Hmm.
you know. Because he like that's when Punpun is just he's sad and he's thinking to himself, and that's when God appears. I think it's clear at this point that he's specifically tied to he's just Punpun's inner voice.
Yep.
He's decided to label that as God, probably because he's lonely.
Yep. And we see like the relationship between Punpun and Aiko take a strange turn. Like they don't really talk to each other anymore. 2 years have passed. and
Yeah.
Aiko have a new boyfriend.
Well, he
And
breaks his
hasn't
promise to her.
Yeah, that's right.
He doesn't go and meet her at 6 p.m. Wherever, I can't remember, behind the school or whatever it was that wherever it was that she wanted him to meet him.
Yep.
He's glad when this terrible thing happens to his mom and they have to go to the hospital because it means he doesn't have to see Aiko. But he gets caught up in the momentum of all that and never like touches base with her again. And he sees her crying as he's driving to the hospital with his uncle, I think. That's right. That's the timing of that when he sees that those two big images, like the double page images of Aiko crying.
Yep.
I think that's when he's in the car on the way to the hospital. And so, so he starts to beat himself up for that as well. Like nothing is really going his way here.
Well, if he decided to dump his love, that's what he get.
Yeah, well, I mean, he does it because there's also tied up with the fact that he loves Aiko, is like she's threatened to kill him, and he is extremely anxious about that during this volume as well. He's thinking to himself like that, like his life is really under threat.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't blame, and plus there's all the stuff that he's having to deal with in his own life. Like I don't blame him for losing touch with her, but not talking to her for 2 years. That just goes to show like how neurotic and like kind of asocial his personality is. And the only reason that he's able to get back into the swing of things is because education is compulsory. Like you have to go back to school.
Yep.
And he does, and
the same thing happened to Aiko as well. She doesn't talk to Punpun for 2 years.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we get to like I think the second chapter now. Like after the time skip, it's they're in middle school, right?
Right.
Well, and Punpun look exactly the same as just a little bird.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional.
Yep.
That he hasn't changed, because I think he's still the same kid on the inside.
Well, he vowed it though to be an adult.
He did, yes. But the manga was its tongue was clearly planted in its cheek, I think, during that scene.
Right.
Because God, after he vows to be an adult, God shows up very quickly, like his inner voice shows up in place of the setting sun, like over the mountains, and says, "You just thought that you should go home now, didn't you?" Like taunting him about the fact that he's a kid, he's tied to his home. And that's... Instead, he goes to the school, and that's one of my favorite moments from this whole volume in chapter 22. When he goes to school and he feel like it's so desolate and so quiet. He feels like he's all alone. And then he thinks to himself, if I was going to be lonely, it would have been better... if I was going to feel lonely like this, it would have been better for me to have been lonely all my life.
Yeah, well...
Like, I should have been alone from the beginning. I never should have made any sort of connection with everyone if I was ever going to feel this way. That is some adult-level depression right there. That's, like, existential
that
stuff.
is true, yeah.
And then
it just...
Go ahead.
I just mean like the whole two volume that we see him so fast. He feel left out. He feel. I think that's like one of the decisions why his character design is the bird, not like the real person, because he always feel like different than the rest, and he's
that's a good point.
Isolated,
Yeah, it's not just to soften the blow of his terrible life. Or to keep him the same, give him the same design, even as everyone else is growing up around him. It's actually he's different. Like,
right, yeah.
He's so visually distinct. Yeah, that's a good point.
And just to strengthen the isolation from him, about him from the rest of all the other characters.
Right. Yeah, and there's even the fact that sometimes Punpun is obscured in a panel or in a series of panels. It'll be hard to find him because he's so small and because it's easy to hide him behind other objects. And I think the Asano probably did that on purpose as he was drawing Punpun. Punpun doesn't stand out. he's caught up in his own head, and he doesn't talk, not conventionally like the other characters do. He's kind of lost, even in his own manga, he's like hidden.
Yep.
So just a sad life all around.
Yeah. And we got like another 11 volumes of another's of all the sad life that we're gonna see from him.
Yep. Oh, did you?
But I mean, yes.
Did you notice we actually got to see what Punpun really looks like, what his family really looks like?
No. Did we?
Okay.
No.
We did. In chapter 17, which is after. So chapter 16 is the one where Punpun, his life flashes before his eyes.
Yep.
And we get that big, like the dream sequence kind of that ends with like all the different like symbols kind of sitting on the rainbow, like the melodica, like the keyboard looking thing that you blow into, and God's head and his drawing of Little Slugger and all that stuff, like sitting on the rainbow, waving goodbye to him as he's carried on that bed away from his dreamland. That's episode 16. The one immediately afterwards, there is a scene where the rain starts to pour down, and there's a scene where a man with a mustache comes home to his wife and child. And that child has a towel over his head, and his mom is kind of drying him off.
All right.
Do you remember this at all?
I don't remember that at all, but
okay.
Well, I will have a look on that. Well,
his dad in bird form is depicted as having a mustache. He has that little mustache over his beak.
Hold on, is that chapter 17?
Chapter 17, yeah.
All right.
Do you have it open?
Yeah, I have it open.
Okay, if you go through like the first few pages, you can see a panel of a man with a mustache taking shelter from the rain.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember
that man is his father.
Yeah, I remember that shot was really random because this character we don't know about, but
we do.
A whole lot of sense. Yeah, but that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, that's actually Punpun's dream. That after the rainstorm, he would be at home, his mother caring for him, showing him love, and his father would return from his job to his wife and son. And then immediately after that, Punpun wakes up. That's the very next panel after that scene is over. He wakes up and Aiko and Shima are there. Shimi.
That's like another layer of, sophistication right there.
I know. But it's really interesting too, because the manga doesn't like during his near-death experience, the manga uses like the black background that a lot of manga will use in like flashbacks or dreams to show that it's not really happening. But Punpun reserves that background for his near-death experience, and his dream appears to be reality. It doesn't have that background, and it's completely out of context. It's just slapped into the middle there, and it's up to the reader to spot that. And so I feel like the whole construction of the manga actually is very playful.
Yep.
Like it, in the same spirit that a child would value play so highly. I feel like Oyasumi Punpun itself plays with the reader.
Yep.
It's really interesting.
And it's really impressive from Ashano in order to come up with all this and make it really consistent.
Yeah, it is. It's really inspired, I feel.
Yep.
But it's also so strange. Like the only reason that you're able to hang in there through all the weirdness, is because the manga is like bringing you along. It has its hand like on your back, and is helping you through the difficulty and the strangeness. With a strong character and a strong story, and like visual consistency,
Right. And it's incredible sad at moments, and it's incredible, like funny, irrelevant at the next.
Yeah, and even like extremely emotional sometimes. Like the scene where they're all looking up at the stars.
Yep. Yep.
You know, all this, like Seki has just like mended ways with Shimi.
Yep.
You know, they're all holding hands. Aiko is, you know, her ankles are hurt, but she's able to walk with everyone else's support.
Yep.
You know, all of those feel good, you know, like connections between those child characters have just formed, and right at that moment, the shooting star comes down, and you see all of them looking up at the sky and like feeling as though they have a place in a larger universe.
Yep.
That's amazing to me. And even then, the manga still like hits you with like a bitter disappointment because Punpun realizes he won't be able to keep his promise to Aiko. Like he's sure that he can't keep his promise, and yet, you know, he wants to savor this moment.
And I just put on the screenshot where you see Aiko, you know, like waiting for him and crying. Oh my god, that just hit me. So sad.
Right, when he's in the car with Yuichi.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that was when Yuichi talking about, you know, like all these thing about life.
Right. First he talks about his sister's backstory, you know, her time in Europe.
Yep.
And then he goes into his whole philosophy about, and it's so interesting the way that like it alternates panels between Punpun's thoughts about Aiko, and like he's gaining confidence and thinking, oh, well, she's not actually going to kill me. She herself is lonely, you know, and she, you know, like I bet that when I talk to her next, she won't even be able to hold this against me, you know, like he's feeling more and more empowered in their relationship as his uncle is like sinking more and more into despair over the human condition. For some reason, the way that those two like thought processes are lined up is really significant to me. Yeah, and I can't explain why completely. I think it's just a contrast between adult reasoning and childhood values. And that was what I was talking about before. Like, this isn't the only time when Yuichi will be talking about, in this volume, Yuichi will be talking about something, and Punpun will be largely disregarding him, caught up in his own world. And I think that's actually a point that the manga is making, is that Punpun, the reason he's so damaged is because he hasn't been allowed to be a child, even though he clearly is one based on the way that he thinks and the way that he's portrayed visually, even as the little bird. Because his family situation is so terrible, he's got like lawyers over at his house discussing his family's legal situation when he comes home. You know, like he hasn't been offered the opportunity to be the child that he is. Just really bleak stuff, man. I love it. I know. Well, I love feeling so crushed and depressed, you know.
At least though, at this moment, I think Punpun have a good relationship with his friends, like all of these friends around him.
But even that is ripped away from him by the end of this volume. That's largely. Right.
Yep. I would say like the next podcast that we're gonna do together, we're gonna cut down the weekly stuff time in order for more time for Punpun.
I hope so. I mean, yeah, this ran way too long. Obviously, 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Yep.
But yeah,
right,
pretty good.
For those who's still listening from us, like for nearly 2 hours, thanks very much. Punpun is really good. Read them. Read them.
Check it out.
One volume every week, so that you can still
read along, man. Yeah. Yep. Follow along.
All right. We will see you guys next week then.
Take it easy.
See ya.